listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence podcast, where we explore the intersections of spirituality, healing, and purposeful living. I'm your host, Sana, and today's conversation, listeners, it definitely feels very, very close to my heart. We live in a world that constantly pulls us outward into productivity, performance, into the next thing on our never-ending to-do lists or mental notes that we keep on making, and we keep feeling frustrated. But what happens when life kind of forces us to stop? When we are invited or perhaps required to turn inward and reconnect with ourselves at a much deeper level. Listeners, our guest today, Heidi Blackie, knows this journey intimately. From being unable to work or drive due to chronic illness to becoming a featured speaker at the Cross Global Happiness Summit, Heidi's transformation is not just inspiring, it is a beacon for all of us navigating life's storms. As the creator of Unshakable Me and 25 years as an occupational therapist, Heidi helps women reconnect with their inner power, break through their limiting beliefs, and help them design their lives of purpose and joy. And today on the Cosmic Conference, she is here to share how connecting with ourselves deeply is truly the key to living with joy, clarity, and purpose. So, with that, Heidi, welcome to the show. And I am so honored to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be able to sit down and talk about this topic with you.
Absolutely. So, Heidi, let's begin with your story. I mean, it's so powerful with ups and downs, with transformation, with experiences. So, can you take us back to the that moment when life came to a standstill? I mean, if it's okay with you. I mean, what did that pause reveal to you about the way you had been living?
Yeah, well, like you just said in your introduction,
Mhm.
I was living, doing, crossing off everything off the to-do list, what's on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And I lived that way. I worked several jobs. I was a competitive athlete. I was had a vibrant social life and traveled. And I just, from the moment my feet hit the floor till the moment I fell into bed, I was in motion. And I was a million miles from myself. And what that kind of, uh, that lifestyle
Mhm.
created in me was a, a situation where I wasn't really taking as good care of myself. I wasn't slowing down. And so I became a little, I had opportunistic infections and injuries that I would try and kind of tamp down. And then in 2016, I lost my dog to cancer. 2 months later, my sister committed suicide. 6 weeks after that was my wedding. And then a year later, my mom had bone cancer. I moved in with my parents in California for 3 months to really help spearhead her medical care and hospice and end of life, as well as, being a daughter and trying to savor every moment. And after that, I had several major stressors. And so what those did was they were like a lit match to all the infections that had been kind of harboring in my body over the years. And so I got very sick and continued to get sick, and doctors couldn't really tell me what was going on. And I got to a point in 2021 where I was in bed most days a week. I was not seeing people. I couldn't think. I couldn't find words. I was leaving the stove on. I definitely couldn't work. I think I just said that. And I remember sitting in my kitchen window and feeling so alone. And and sitting there with nowhere to go, no doctors. My husband said, maybe this is how you'll be, which I said, no, this isn't living. And I had tried a lot of things and I had taught those things to others with great success, but I always felt like there was a missing piece, and that was me. And so I asked myself for the first time in 15 years or 10 years by this time, what am I believing about my ability to heal?
Yeah.
And I had never asked that. I just was every appointment, okay, this doctor's going to help me, and then they wouldn't. And then the next thing and the next thing. And the answer to that was I'm believing I'm not going to heal and that I'm going to continue getting worse because that's what had been happening. And looking at my mom and my cancer risk, there's definitely, I think that was probably in my future. And it really shocked me, like the raw truth of that. I'd never confronted myself like that before. And so I chewed on it. I sat with the reality of it. And I thought, there's no way I can heal if I don't believe I can heal and I don't believe in me. So I made a vow that day and to believe in myself and to believe in my ability to heal. And to be honest, Sana, I've never had amazing belief in myself. I grew up with this narrative of not being enough and self-doubt that so many of us have.
Yes.
And so believing was new. It was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. And I started meditating. I dove into research about the biology of belief and how it can change your cells, um, and so much more, your energy. And I started journaling. I put post-it notes everywhere, believe, believe, believe. I had mantras and anchors. I started movement practices, and I it definitely is a journey, but what has unfolded has been just this incredible experience. And I have this ally inside me that I call my unshakable me. And it is this deep well of resilience. It's the part of me that says, you are enough. It's a profound sense of joy that, I've had a great life. And this, everything pales in comparison to the feeling of joy that I now have. It gave me the courage to really challenge the limiting stories and beliefs that accumulated over my lifetime and certainly around my illnesses. And it gives me the courage to step out of my comfort zone and really put myself out there. Ironically, I had like sore throats that felt like swallowing barbed wire for years. And since I found this unshakable me and this voice, they're gone. I mean, I also had treatment, so I have a doctor. But I think for a long time, I kept my voice quiet because I was afraid of judgment. And now all I want to do is use it and tell everyone, shout it from the mountaintops. This is possible for all of us. When we connect with ourselves, there is so much possibility, and we are so, so powerful. So that's kind of been the journey, and I never set out to build a program or anything like that, but it came to me one day, Unshakable Me, and this is the program I was looking for so many years when I was sick, and this is the program that can change everyone's lives, to really find that ally. We all have it. We're born with it. It's our spirit, it's our soul, it's that part of us that no one can take away.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Heidi, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your story. I mean, um, some huge life events happened in there. Um, it feels like an earthquake destroying you, but I think that is the power of spirit, and the name Unshakable Me. I cannot think of a more apt name which you could give to this entire journey. Your journey itself, it itself speaks about, shouts about, yes, I am unshakable. So that is so, so profound. And that is sometimes we have to be brought, fortunately or unfortunately, to a complete stop to hear what our soul is trying to whisper or say.
Agreed. And I had so many opportunities to listen, and I didn't. And I had a little voice
Mhm.
at the beginning that said, "You have the power to heal inside of you." And it was a much quieter voice compared to the voice of doubt or the voice of doing. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know how to access it. But I had all these opportunities and I didn't listen. And I feel like the universe had to beat me over the head with it in order for me to wake up. And that's what it also feels like. I feel like I was sleepwalking through life and now I'm awake. And it's like it's technicolor. It's
Yep.
I'm a completely different person. I look the same, but
Mhm.
inside it, I'm living from such a different place.
Wow. Wow. I really, really, love the spirit within you. So Heidi, in your healing journey, I mean, when you first um got to know that okay, you are going through this, when you heard that this is it, this is the way your life is going to be, what exactly was going through your mind? I mean, was there a thought, okay, fine, this is the way it is, or I have to get out of it? And of course, there was a choice given to you, but what exactly was going through your mind?
Resistance, because I wasn't living. I was so
Mm.
consumed by my symptoms and I was such a shell of the person that I used to be that I I don't think I would commit suicide because of the pain that I felt losing my sister. But this was not a life, and and there was no way I was
Mhm.
going to stay there. I had to do something. At that point, I I was looking for a doctor, but I really felt like it's up to me. It's up to me to be the change, to figure this out, to look at what's inside.
Mhm. And Heidi, you, what I can understand is, for you, belief was a pivotal catalyst in your healing. So, how do we begin to shift deeply ingrained beliefs, especially for women, and especially the unconscious ones we might not even realize, are holding us back?
That's a great question. And here's an example. I had the belief that I don't want to go out and exercise because it's going to set me back, or I don't want to be around people. So I stayed home and I really thought, okay, this is right. This is what I should do. This is helping me. And then when I started to unravel this, I discovered, no, this is not helping me. This is keeping me back. And I had created lots of these, what I call mental prisons. that were just as confining as the physical prisons of my illnesses. And so I had to really look at the stories and the beliefs underlying them to realize that wasn't serving health. That was keeping me from seeing people. It was keeping me from moving and getting outside in nature. And I definitely found the limits the hard way sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a belief that I had it all wrong, what I was believing. And I think looking at the areas in your life and the stories in your life that don't feel good, that diminish you in some way, is a really good place to start and look at what you're believing about yourself in those stories. And then asking, is it true? So much of my life at that time was driven by anxiety and fear of getting worse, of not getting better. And those narratives did not help or service my healing. So it was really looking at and testing those beliefs and then looking for the evidence to support it. Well, it does to go out and walk a mile, there isn't definitive evidence. I'm basing everything on the past. But if I want my future to be different, I can't base it on that same template. So it's just picking one story or one belief about yourself or a situation and almost kind of dissecting it and testing out the parts of it to see if it's true.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That is fascinating. And it's really fascinating, Heidi, that how these subconscious narratives they shape our entire experience of life. I know for me, for the fact that sometimes it is those quiet background beliefs that need the most, gentle uncovering.
And meeting what you find with
Mhm.
kindness, most of those, that programming was not put in by us.
Mm.
It was shaped by other people. And yet just like you said, it shapes our reality, it shapes our lives, it shapes our perspectives and our perceptions of life going on around us and how we fit in. And having so much compassion and acceptance for yourself is critical to being able to move past that.
Yeah.
And that inner voice, that's also a good place to start. The themes of the inner voice that you have.
Mhm. So, how do people define success differently? Often in this world, people equate success with external achievements. But after all this, how do you define success now? And how has that definition evolved since your journey, inward?
Success to me before was a lot of achievement. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I love to learn, but I was always striving for, the next credentials, or I want to show up and be the best for my patients, and what can I learn so that I can do that as a competitive athlete, that drive to get better and better and having really high expectations. Now, success to me is really, number one, what can I do to make the world better every day? What is something I can do? And being very intentional about everything that I do, from how I show up in my relationships, how I show up for clients,
Mhm.
that I mean what I say and I make a commitment and I keep it. And that includes a commitment to myself. So being successful is just showing up with the best intention and being really true to myself, and also growing and being open and connecting with the world and nature. So spreading light, that to me is success, because that can pass on from you to other people, to just radiate out from there.
Sure. And we were just discussing about, openness and clarity before starting the podcast, but yeah, absolutely agree with you. And Heidi, many of our listeners, they are high achievers, constantly in motion, as you were described when you were sharing your journey, that doing and doing, not being. So, how do you help people break that cycle of doing and then guiding them back to being without feeling that guilt or fear that they are falling behind, or they are just changing themselves, or they're bringing a huge change in their life?
That's such a great question. And I still, like I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist. But I think, what is the difference between, um, let me say this a different way. I think
Mhm.
lowering the bar. What is the worst thing that can happen if you lower the bar a little bit to help yourself not feel so stretched, and to really be intentional about your choices, and really focusing on what matters and what is the most important thing. Because for me, when I was high achieving and high and doing all that, and even still with the things that I'm creating, I have the bar set very high. And when I don't meet it, I feel really bad about myself. And instead of feeling bad, I'm going to meet myself with kindness, with exactly the compassion I would give to a friend. And I'm going to adjust the expectations of myself so that I'm still doing a good job, but it's
Mhm.
doable and it's realistic and it's authentically me.
Yeah.
And if people can just kind of take a step back and figure out what is the most important thing or few things, and how can you meet it with that same level of expertise and authenticity, but not to the point where it turns on you.
No, so such a powerful reframing. Great, great. So before we wrap up, Hari, this really, really profound conversation, if our listeners would like to connect with you and explore more about Unshakable Me and also share their own stories, what's the best way to do that?
I would love that. My website is Unshakable Me, and that's unshakable. There's no E at the end of shakable. It's just SHAKABLE.com. Oh, me.com. And there is a place that you can set up a discovery call with me. I would love to hear stories. I also have email on there if people want to email me. I love to share this. I love to talk about it and help people in any way that I can.
Absolutely. I'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes. And Harry, thank you so much for this heart opening conversation, raw, real, authentic. And definitely your journey is a testament to the resilience we all carry within us. And then the power of reconnecting. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure.
And to all of our listeners today, if this episode sparked something within you, whether it's the desire to slow down or to believe in your own healing or to simply reconnect with your inner voice, I invite you to explore Heidi's work and take that first step toward your own clarity, joy, and purpose. And as always, this is your host, Sana, and this is Cosmic Confluence. Until next time, keep listening within and honoring your cosmic journey. Thank you.